In a previous video, I implemented a RabbitMQ retry policy on my consumer, and I would basically want to expand upon that, but instead of just adding additional retries, I want to handle what happens when you exceed the retry count and send that message ultimately to a dead letter queue. And if you watched a previous video, I showed you how to implement dead letter queues and exchanges inside of RabbitMQ. So we followed generally this diagram here. So basically the queue, upon failure to acknowledge the message, part of the consumer, it's going to be routed to the dead letter exchange and then routed to the dead letter queue. So let's go actually and handle that. And let's pull open RabbitMQ here. I'm going to pull open my management UI, log in. So we made this dead letter fan out exchange that I'm just going to use for this video as well. So this is bound to a queue called the failed car data queue. And so that's what I want to use as our dead letter queue. And so this is generally what's going to happen here. So let's go ahead and go back into my RabbitMQ consumer logic here. So this, I implemented all of this in a previous video that I'll link. And this is basically a retry enabled consumer. So I'm just essentially capturing off of the headers a retry count. And then I'm going to essentially, simulate basically like if this were to throw an exception, then you would have to implement some form of retry tracking. So I've set up an endpoint where I set the retry count to 3, and I'm actually going to go ahead and call that. And let me call that. And you can see when I get my retry count, it's 3. That's coming from RabbitMQ on the basic properties inside of the headers. So you can see that my header, I have a retry key with a value of 3. And so I'm going to step through this, and I'm going to, log on my console. And if I were again to throw an exception, let's say the next thing I want to do would be to check my retry count is greater than 1. So I can continue, continue, and then eventually it's going to stop. So I retried. I need to clear my console, but 3, 2, 1, you can see that. So I'm just going to stop that because I did make a change to my code. But you can kind of get the general idea. So it's going to retry it 3 times. And I want to expand upon this and basically send it to a dead letter exchange upon failure to acknowledge after the retry count. So what that's going to look like is basically we're going to say, okay, if the retry count is greater than 1, then we're going to send it back. We need to basically add an additional else if retry count is equal to 1. And in our what in the world? There we go. And in our case, 1 is just happens to be the magic number that we're using. If we wanted to dial this down to 0, we could. But again, this is just for my example. So again, retry count is greater than 1. We're going to perform the republish with the new updated header value for retry. If it equals 1, or in our case, if the retries are all exhausted, we then want to fail to ACK and basically have the message routed to the dead letter queue. So what we need to do here is basically let me go back into RabbitMQ and let's go ahead and look at the one queue that I have set up for a dead letter exchange. So you can see that I have two queues here. One of these has the feature of DLX, and if we go to that, that's what I need defined here. So you can see that I have dead letter exchange set to dead letter. So a message that is failed to be acknowledged by the consumer is going to be routed by RabbitMQ to that exchange. So I need to look at what queue I'm using for this, and I'm using the engine retry queue. Let's go ahead and look at that queue there. Engine retry. Okay, so I don't have that a feature set on that. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to remake this queue. So what I'm going to, this is fairly basic queue. So I'm actually going to, okay, classic. I'm actually going to delete this queue here. And then inside of my consumer, because I'm just going to do it through code, I'm going to, when I declare my queue, I'm going to declare that as a argument on the queue. And actually, let me go back to RabbitMQ to make sure I have the right feature here. X dead letter exchange. Okay, I'm going to add that to my dictionary of string object. These are the arguments that are going to be provided upon queue declare. So I'm going to set that, and then we're going to set it to the name of the exchange, which in my case is dead letter. I believe that that is, I'm going to, okay, features. All right, so let's go ahead, and that should be good. And then we're binding it to, okay, and we already have the dead letter exchange and queue created and bound, so I'm not going to worry about declaring that and binding it here. Let's go ahead and debug this. It should create it for us. So once that starts, let's go into my queues, and now you can see engine retry has been made, and now I have the DLX feature, dead letter queue. So dead letter exchange, excuse me. So let me go back into my code now that that is a feature of the queue. Let's go down back to our else if statement here. So the next thing we need to figure out is, how do we fail to acknowledge manually and have it be routed? So what I need to do is I need to say await, and then on the channel, let's look at what we have. Let's look at some options here we have. So we have basic acknowledgement. We have basic NAC, which let's hover over that. Asynchronously NAC one or more delivered messages. And then we have basic reject. This says to reject a delivered message. And that's the one we're going to want to select here. So let's see what we have to provide it. So we have to provide it with the delivery tag, which we have available to us. Then we have to provide a requeue setting, which is important. We're going to set that to false because we do not want it requeued. And now what we need to do here is provide my cancellation token. And do we fulfill all their arguments here? I believe so. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run this again, and let's set a breakpoint when it enters here. And I'm going to remove that breakpoint. Okay, I'm actually going to move it up a level, so I'm going to restart that. And then what I'm going to do now is call my endpoint to send that message through. It did look like we got it looks like we got an error, unhandled exception. Oh, inequivalent argument X letter exchange. Oh, I need to, I never set it on my publish. Hold on a second. Basic Q. I never set it on my publisher to that queue. Let's go ahead and go to my, I believe the car controller. And what route was that? Car controller retry message. Okay, retry message. I need to set that argument here as well when I build the queue. Okay. I always forget to do it in both spots. Okay, X dead letter exchange, and it was just dead letter is the name of the exchange. Okay, let's run this again. Let's refire that endpoint. Okay, retry count is now 1. I retried 3 times, as you can see in the console. Retry 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. So now, let's step over this. Let's go and pull open my queue, so you can see I have no messages ready, but I have one unact, which is the current message that we're stepping through with. Let's go ahead and step past that. So now it should be we should have rejected it, requeue to false, and then let's now hop over to our failed, I think it was the failed car data, yeah. And then you can see now we have, let's get both of those messages there, because it should be the, here it is. And here's our message here. So hello world is what we published. And we have, there's my custom header with the retry count. We have X death count to 1. Reason rejected, routing keys, first X first death exchange, engine retry. The reason it was rejected. So there it is. So there it is getting routed to my dead letter queue via the dead letter exchange. Let's go ahead and continue this fully. So now it's just sitting in that queue, and now essentially we just have to write a consumer. What I do want to do also now, what I do want to do actually is I want to experiment with something. So I want to stop this, and I want to see if we can get a similar functionality of retry without having to publish again. And I want to see if we can do that on the just when we, through the channel through acknowledgments. So you can see that the basic ACK doesn't give us that ability. And that's what we're using is the basic ACK, where you can just provide the delivery tag. And let's see if we can do it with a not basic consume, basic NAC, asynchronously NAC one or more delivered messages, basic publish, basic reject. We don't want to reject exchange declare. Let's see. Basic NAC async. Oh, you can do event handlers to that. Very interesting. Basic NAC. Okay. Let's do a basic NAC. And then instead of we're going to requeue and okay. So now define message properties. The only thing is though, I don't think it would capture the, it's not going to have the new header. And you can't modify the message. Let me set a I want to see what this looks like. So let's set a let's actually debug this again. I want to see what becomes available to us on the message frame itself when we publish data to that. So this again is going to be, we're going to be in our retry loop here, but now we're not going to publish it to the queue again. So let's go back up to message retry. So, okay, engine, is this what we're, yeah. Basic knack. Okay. Very interesting. Basic. Oh, wait, whoops. I already acknowledged it. My bad. Okay, I don't want to acknowledge it again. I was like, wait, why is it 0? Okay, let's do this again. Okay. Let's send that message through again. Now it should be 1 for unact, right? All right, let's step over this. We're out of here because we're not retrying anymore. But I might have to... So we're going to requeue. Is there a way that I can see... I want to see the entire message body here. So, not the body, the properties. Okay, priority, timestamp, delivery mode, headers. That's my custom header. Priority. Delivery tag, redelivered is true. So you get delivery tag. Delivery tag. Let me run this again because you see we get a delivery tag. And obviously I know the redelivered is going to be true because we have redelivered it once now. But maybe delivery tag is what it changes upon... Okay, so now I redid it again, resent it through again. Let's look at the event arguments now again. Delivery tag is 3. And EA delivery tag, oh, okay. So thinking about this now, I might not even need to use a custom header. Because if we knack the message, that might be a better approach because then you don't have to republish it. But if you knack it, it's going to go in the same spot. It should preserve the order upon which it was in the queue, and you're not going to publish it immediately to the first spot because it's first in, first out. Okay, well let's redo this here. Let's think about this now. I'm not going to take into consideration the retry count. Well, I am. But now instead of the basic properties on the header, I'm going to need to get it from the delivery tag. Okay. So that makes it easier on us. So we can just say EA dot delivery tag. Now retry count, if retry count is, we have to invert it now because it would be 1, 2, 3. So we need this to be if less than 4, and then bump this up to 4. That should give us the the same thing as 3. And then when we publish the message, let's go into the implementation. I'm not going to worry about sending a header anymore. I'm going to comment the header out. So now I've commented the header out. I'm coming in my retry policy. I've still wrapped it in here, except now if I were to throw an exception, when I try catch or whatever, I'm going to, instead of publish, I'm just going to knack the message. Basic hack. Let's do this again. I might have been making this way overcomplicated here by having to put a custom header on the top, which of course works, but it's going to work a little differently than doing it this way. So hold on, I want to, okay, retry. So 1, so this is 2, 3. Oh, I think oh, okay, so I did it, it's 4 times, so, okay, well, oh, it must start at 0, okay, that's good. Let's kick that down to 0 or 3, and then let's stop and redo this here. All right, my console, retry 1, 2, oops, so you can see that, and 3, because there's my console. So I did it 3 times. Now I'm in here, retry count is 3. I'm going to reject it because I exceeded the retry, and it's going to go to my, it's going to be off the queue. Let me just refresh that, and I'm going to go to my failed car data, and it's going to be on there. So let's go ahead and get all these messages. Okay, so this doesn't have doesn't have my retry custom header, but oh, okay. Man, so that's like way easier then. Obviously, you still could do it with the custom headers, but you get it out of the box with delivery tag. Well, okay, well, I'm glad I worked on this because that's really good to know, because so the difference between doing it with a custom header or the republishing versus just using delivery tag and the knack and the message, I think you would then preserve the order, which is actually better. And you just take advantage of the connection, right? Honestly, that's really good to know, because I feel like now we learned about I learned about the delivery tag that just increments every time you knack the message. You can set requeue to true. Well, that's honestly all I had. So we covered how to wire up a dead letter queue and how to incorporate that into a retry consumer that has some kind of retry logic. We discovered the delivery tag, and we replaced the publish with the custom retry header with the delivery tag and knacking the message. So I feel like we made a lot of progress in this one. So I think the next one we're going to try to spruce this up a little bit more, and we're going to try to incorporate just basic request response in the form of a reply to header on the message. So I think we might look at that next. But yeah, I'm just going to keep more of these RabbitMQ and .NET videos coming along. So let me know what y'all think, and thank y'all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.